learned to not take credit, not because some self-sacrifice, but to allow credit to really just occur, to be spread, to be joined, to be celebrated, to be an expression of who we are as a community, And so you got my name, Clif, the third Clif in my family, Clif the third. I'm now also the elder of my family, which is an amazing experience for me. All the old folks are gone. But I was a kid who always followed them around. I would be under my grandmother's arm. She had her own business. She'd be taking me everywhere. She put entrepreneurship in my heart, I had my grandfather. He was one of the kindest, gentlest, and most brilliant people I've ever known. And he put that on me and in me as well, And all these other people, aunts and great-grandmothers. My great-grandmother was born right after slavery, And she put that in me, who she was in that experience from that time, Now, I'm a kid from Harlem, born in the 40s, post-baby boomer, My expression, my relationship to America in this life compared to hers, wow. She saw things that, to me, I could not see. But I was able to share things with her that, that I saw as a kid growing up in the city. I'll just tell you my background a little bit. Since 1968, I've been involved in some kind of movement or social service program almost continually since that time. I'm an expert at nothing. There are no letters behind my name, okay? I'm just a dude who gives a rip.
Amen.
And who, from my grandmother and my grandfather, learned the power of community and service. My grandfather was a Mason, Prince Hall Mason. I grew up with those men like that at my side as a child. My grandmother was a worthy matron in the, what do you call that? Sisters, help me. Eastern Star, thank you. How could I forget that? And so I grew up surrounded by those women, and they put service on my heart. So it was no accident that when, years later, as a kid running the streets in Harlem, I was drawn to, like, the Black Panthers and the NAACP and, organizations like that were doing something. And then I went into the military and found the racism was there, and just naturally, organically, start bringing brothers together to do something about it. And it was not just black guys, but black guys and white guys and Latino guys and Asian guys. We got together and said, this ain't right. Didn't know what we were doing, but we found our voice, and things started to happen. So it's been a long road from 1968 to this day, and I want to tell you this. I thought a lot about what I wanted to say to you, okay? When AJ asked me to do this. I don't stand in front of rooms. I've been in, God knows how many rooms. When I stand in front of a room like this, I want to say something that's of value to you, okay? I'm not up here. In Hawaii, we have an expression called talking bubbles. And we all know people talking bubbles. They're talking, bloop, 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 bloop. It's like when you're scuba diving and the bubbles go up, So I really, hopefully, will say something that, let's put it this way, as a gift to you, Not from me as somebody, some expert, and like I say, ain't no letters behind my name, but just as a gift to pass on to you what has been passed on to me. I've been lucky. I've been able to walk next to or in the shadow of some of the greatest human beings that lived in my lifetime. Names, if I were to name drop, these names, And I just was the dude in the room following by him, trying to figure out, wow, I want to do that. I want to know that, And there's a few lessons that I got out of that that I think might be of value for folks here. See, so I know who's here. And I'm going to start this where I want to end it, okay? With this. There's a word, I just was telling Pia about it. It's the word is acknowledgement. So let me start by acknowledging you. So I know who you are because of where you are and who you're with. You know, there's a certain type of person who will give up an afternoon, a day, to sit and talk about love and how we can bring it into existence in our lives and in this world. Not as a concept, but as a living, breathing, dynamic experience. You know? And you're here in this conversation. You know? Just let that sink in for a minute. Who you're with while we're here. And this beautiful concept and movement that the man with no name and his beautiful wife have opened up for us, but for the world. You know? I mean, they've created a context that's greater than just the simple word. So that's the first thing. Here's what I'm going to share with you, to give to you. One is a concept or a principle. You know, principles are universal. The principle be the same. See, love is love in China. Love is love in Hawaii. We say aloha. You know, love is love in Harlem, where I'm from. You know. So first thing I want to share with you is just that principle similar to that. The second is I'm going to give you two practices that go inside that. And then I want to ask you for something, or ask you to do something. Okay? You with me? Okay, great. So the first concept, it may take a second to kind of get it, wrap your head around it. But let me say this. I'm telling you stuff that you already know. Okay? So I'm not like some expert here up there preaching to you. Everything I'm about to say, you already know. I'm just underlining it, maybe, and maybe amplifying it a bit. Okay? You know, your listening is the really powerful thing that's happening in this room, not my speaking. Okay? And so the first thing I want to say is point to this concept. And it's the concept of sufficiency. And we have a lot of, we think about, we have preachers, the gospel preachers talking about the prosperity gospel. We got to get, like that. Then we have other people, like the business people and entrepreneurs talking about, how to become a billionaire and a millionaire and like that, And the sufficiency is something else. It's the satisfying, soul satisfying experience of having enough, of being enough. And we don't often experience that. We almost never talk about it. In our country, it's this thing about, get more, be better. More is better. But there's something about, if you had the experience, and every one of us has had it at some point, of just having enough. Just what you need, a big chunk of what you want, and some of those things that are heartfelt, worthy desires. That's true prosperity. And that's the principle I want to give you. See, so enough is enough in China. Enough is enough in Africa. Enough is enough. Sufficiency is sufficiency in America. And here's why that's so important. Because when you get that enough is enough, you also get that I'm enough, that we're enough, that you're enough. So you talk about with love, right, for example, when you have enough love, when you got enough of it, you're not out. Oh, you gotta get a haircut. I gotta get a new suit. I gotta do this. It's just, I don't know how to explain this, but I'll give you an example of it. So one of the things I know, that in this room, there's some empty chairs. There's a whole bunch of other people who we could join this conversation. But if we put our heads and our minds together, our hearts, our love, our energy, our wisdom, our creativity, our artistry, our genius, in just the people in this room, we could tilt the axis of the earth. That's the power of enough, of sufficiency. The other thing about it is, this is one of the things I learned in doing this work for a very long time, is that every person I deal with is whole and complete and is enough. They got everything they need. So when talking to these kids this morning, I knew that in their room was these little kids, 6th graders, but they are already enough. You know, they're whole and complete. And they're the whole world. They're capable of doing anything in this world. They have everything they need. You know, does this reach? You getting it?
Yep.
You know, so that's the concept of sufficiency. I'll give you another graphic example of it. This thing with the context, to create the context of sufficiency. You know, we talk about life as a bowl of cherries. The context, or this idea of sufficiency is, the context is the bowl, and everything else goes in the cherries, goes into the cherries, you know? And that's when, it's kind of like love is a context, you know? And if you've been in love, you know that you get you got somebody you love, you know you get everything that goes with them. But if that bowl is solid, if that bowl, that context is established, is set, you got room for all of them. You know, when they snore at night, you got room for that. You know,
That's true.
when they get on your last nerve, you know, you got room for that.
That's true.
You know, when they betray you, you got room for that. Or when you just totally screw it up, you got room. So that's the power of context, and it's the context of sufficiency. And this thing, love, is the context. So when you say I love, you got room for all that comes with that, with the people you're dealing with. You know, which is the shift, that powerful shift that AJ made. He shifted from anger and resentment and disappointment, fear, you know, and resolution. If I'm gonna do something, you know, and all of a sudden he shifted. It wasn't all of a sudden, but it took him a bit. But he evolved. And what came up was love. And he created this incredible context. And look at all the cherries. This is what we can just see here, you know? But when you look deeper, so I know Pia, all the talents this woman has, you know? And AJ, and Nat, and Jane, you know? They bring with them so much experience and life and other people and communities. So it looks like there may be those 4 people in this room. They may represent 4,000, 400,000 people, you know? So, you know, and then that's the other piece of I'll say about sufficiency, and I'll give you the other 2 pieces, just to make this succinct. So when I've dealt with people in this, the thing I learned was most powerful of all. I was a counselor also, so I kind of learned this about that through counseling. But I learned when I deal with people in this kind of work, one thing I know that every person I'm dealing with is wholly and completely sufficient. They have everything it takes to make a difference in the world. In themselves, even if they don't know it, but I see them that way. I know that about them. And you know what happens? We have a completely different relationship. I'm not, you know, so giving this example, so I've raised a lot of money. And you know some of the people I've raised the most money from are some of the poorest people in America. And people don't go to them and say, well, they don't have any money to give. You know, not true. The most generous people in America statistically are the lowest income people. They give more than anyone. Even though Elon Musk could write a check for Trump for $46 million. But there's something extraordinary about a woman who can barely put food on the table to feed her children to like give a bit of that to what she loves, for what she wants the world to be. And that's what I mean by sufficiency. The belief that each of us is whole and complete and able and wants to contribute, can give. They are wealth themselves. I just give you this and I'll get off this thing here. The definition of wealth inside the context of sufficiency. It's your ideas, your energy, your hustle, and your love. And guess what? You don't have to go to the bank to get that. Nobody's got to write a check. That's the great wealth you bring to the table. Who you are is sufficient, whole and complete and able. And that is the most powerful thing I learned from, I guess, 60 years in this gig. You know, I see that in everyone. The second thing I said I was going to give you 2 practices. Inside the context of sufficiency, there's this thing called appreciation. And one of the things I love, I lived in Hawaii, like AJ was mentioning. I mean, the man with no name was mentioning. What does he say? Formerly, like X or whatever. But anyway, what I learned, let me put this down. Can you hear, y'all can hear me fine without this, yeah? Is this thing about appreciation. So one of the things I would come back to the black community. I lived in, there were 1.5% of the people were in Hawaii were African American. When I was there, it was less than that. You know, but about now it's about the average. So I go a long time without seeing a brother, and a way long time without seeing a sister. But I would come back to the mainland, into my community. I'm from Harlem originally. And I would come back with the homies and everything, but I would listen. And every time I come back, I would learn something by the expressions that my people use. So I remember one time I came back and they said, it's all good. That was, everybody was saying, it's all good. And then the Christian folks said, it's all good, it's all God. And I took note. I said, yeah, okay. But here's the one that's operative now. I appreciate you. You hear that all the time, you know? That's a powerful, powerful phrase. So here's the thing, with inside the context of sufficiency, when you come to the world from that position, from that place of sufficiency, inside that, this thing, appreciation, turns it into a superpower. And what do I mean by that? So, how do I say this? That when you focus your energy on what you already have, what people bring to the table, and you really look at that, and you cultivate it, and you speak to it, and you see how it is, you hold it like a possibility, all of a sudden this word appreciation takes on great power, you know? And here's the phrase, I'm gonna cut it short on this, and I want you to take this away. One of my great mentors says this all the time, and I walk around with this banging in my head all the time. What you appreciate, appreciates. Say that to yourself again, quietly. What I appreciate, appreciates. That's a superpower, you know? So what happened with AJ, he shifted from anger to appreciation, you know? He gets who we are and what we're capable of. That we can rise to the moment and to the occasion, that we possess all we need to pull us off. When Nat talks about a movement, you know, how you light a movement up? It's through the power of appreciation. Have people see that they are able, that they're whole and complete, that they're sufficient. They could do anything they put their minds to and their hearts to. Joe Biden talks about it, he says, Americans can do anything if we work together. He's right. You know? And it's true of humanity, who we are. We put a man on the moon. Incredible. And a sister from a poor black community, one of the first in her family to go to school, held the golden key to make it possible. That's who we are, you know? And when we appreciate that, who we are and who we are with and what's available to us in the world, it appreciates, it gains in value. So just the gift is that phrase as it was given to me. What you appreciate, appreciates. That's the first practice. Now I'm going to give you the icing on top of the cake. This is one of the most extraordinary things I've ever learned from the same person who said that phrase, appreciate, appreciates, my mentor for 40 years. And it was a simple word called acknowledgement. And I began this by saying, I know who I'm with, and acknowledging you. The example. So for example, if I were to acknowledge, just demonstrate it for you. AJ, I want you to know, brother, that what you said about me, touched my heart. To know that I could help you in some way to do the mighty mission that you're on, it means a lot to me. Thank you for your partnership, your fellowship, and for always honoring this, whatever it is we share. I am moved by that, in my heart, deeply. I appreciate it. That's acknowledgement. And if you've ever been acknowledged, you know how that feels. When your child says, Dad, Mom, thank you. That's what we live for as parents, that moment, that acknowledgement. If they never say it, maybe they do something that has you get, my baby loves me. They got it. They get it, Like that young man at the school this afternoon, earlier today. He got extraordinary acknowledgement. It lit up his life. But it didn't just light up his life. It lit up those kids. They were falling down on each other to hug him. Yeah? And the teachers, if you watched their eyes and their faces while it was happening, they were all moved by it. So here's what acknowledgement is. It's how you take your power and give it to another human being. So those are the things, the concept that I wanted to give you, the principle. And those are the two practices, appreciation and acknowledgement. Now I have a request that when you leave here, you find someone to appreciate, to give your appreciation to. Say thank you. That doesn't mean thank you is not the only word, but just take a moment and practice it consciously. See, I'm telling you what you already know, but I'm just underlining it and highlighting it for you. Because these are the most powerful things I've learned from a life of service. Humble service. I take no credit for what I've done, but I've done extraordinary things. I've walked with extraordinary people, And I don't know how I got there. I sit back sometimes and say, I'm just a, crazy young brother from the hood. How did this happen? I gave a party once and 25 heads of state showed up. Presidents, kings, queens. Now I'm in the room like, yo, how did this happen? Straight up. I was like, yo, in my tuxedo, first time I ever wore a tuxedo. I said, whoa, But I knew because people empowered me, acknowledged me, appreciated me, my gifts, my talents, and shared and pushed me forward. So the first request is that you just take a moment and appreciate somebody or something in your life, just as a practice. Just go do it, okay? And then the second piece of it is find someone to acknowledge. I'll never forget, my mother died from cancer, and I lived 6,000 miles away. So it was very difficult to have a family and a life here and care for her in New York, But we had this incredible bond between one another in the last year of her life, and it was based on appreciation and acknowledgement. And her time was the greatest time in our relationship and in her life, per her own words, It was just extraordinary, the love that we shared, you know. And so that's what I wanted to say to you. You know, that's what I want to pass on to you, to pay forward, because I'm deeply grateful for the people who shared those things with me. My whole life unfolds within those concepts, within those words and those practices. And again, let me acknowledge you. Like I said, I know who's here. I appreciate your listening. I appreciate, you know, your participation. I wasn't like I was up here talking. We were interacting here, even though you didn't say anything, you know. But I get it. I know who I'm with, and I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to say these things and to pass them along. Thank you.